Hello, I'm Secretary of State Chris Warner, and I serve as the Chief Business Officer for the state of West Virginia. Part of my responsibility is to make sure that West Virginia is positioned to help create a strong pro-business environment to help grow our state's economy. To do that, my office is working to promote the services and programs available throughout the state to help support entrepreneurs and small business owners. This is part of a video series we call Just 3 Questions. These videos are a series of short interviews that I'll conduct with West Virginia business leaders and entrepreneurs. Joining me today is my friend Tom Huber. He is the West Virginia Royalty Owners Association president. The West Virginia Royalty Owners was formed back in 2010 with a group of like-minded individuals from across the state to address shared concerns. The West Virginia Royalty Owners Association mission has grown to educating and supporting mineral owners on issues related to leasing, property rights, and production reports. And I understand how important it is to be able to read a production report. I know you guys do well to get that message out. But Tom, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump in. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about the West Virginia Royalty Owners Association, how land and mineral royalties drive economic development for our state and communities.
So the Royalty Owners Association, like you said, was founded in 2010, and it was essentially a group of us that were concerned about the state and its pursuit of a policy often known as forced pooling. And at the time, industry was at the table and their trade group was involved, but there was nobody involved really from the royalty owner side, which they're the people being forced pooled, and we had concerns about it. So we formed an association and came down here and had conversations with legislators. And eventually that became, over a decade process of finally getting a compromise bill between the various stakeholders, which is the way good policy is usually adopted, where industry, landowners, royalty owners, we all got together and we hammered out a compromise. And that's currently what's in effect there. But there are a lot of other issues that our members care about. And we found that just providing information to people about leasing and what to look out for, potential problems and proposed leases so they can better negotiate a good deal. And that goes to the economic impact of royalty ownership in this state. Royalties paid in West Virginia are over $1 billion since 2010 to royalty owners in our state. That's a huge amount of money. That gets put back into the economy. People buy things, tractors, trucks, put up new barns, fix up a house, invest in a small business. You can look at one of my members, Christy Davis. Their family's heavily involved in philanthropy and trying to help small business with the Hayhurst Invitational and things of that nature. So it has a huge impact that you might not necessarily think of because it's not big name companies, but on the small businesses in rural areas, it's a big driver of growth.
I got to tell you, you mentioned the Hayhurst family and what they did at Stonewall Resort and bringing all these high school students, I think 35 different high schools, was just tremendous. And we all know that that was built off of those royalties that you just mentioned. So a big thank you to Jim and Christy Davis for their effort there and the Hayhurst family. So in rural communities, revenue from royalties can be a lifeline. How can the development of natural gas, oil, and coal help to sustain communities and create new economic opportunities?
So royalties for a lot of people aren't going to be your giant checks because a lot of royalty interests are split up in family heirship. So you have a small percentage. So you may only be getting a few $100s a month. But for a lot of people, a few $100s extra a month can really make a difference. It can pay for groceries one week, something like that. Especially for older people, on Social Security and fixed income, that's a supplement that helps them get by. And this is money that then gets put back into the local economy, right? An interesting story from one of my members, he's a coal miner that worked at the mine up in Marshall County that had a work stoppage recently for a short period of time. And he said, well, it's not so big of a deal as long as the Antero checks keep coming. So it could be a bridge for people. It can help them get through maybe a job transition. It can help them maybe go back to school sometimes, or it can help, revitalize a farm or a small business. Um, we call it mailbox money, but it's important money, and it's payment for the resource that we own here that oftentimes gets taken out of state and sold out of state, and a large amount of that revenue does stay out of state. So the royalties, the severance tax, they're the big way that our state benefits from these developments, as well as the taxes paid on those royalties.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's fun to travel throughout north central West Virginia and see these huge homes that weren't there, 10 years ago, and then to see the businesses that take off, like you mentioned, tractors and things along Route 50. It's great to see that. So, Tom, you spent a lot of time here at the state capitol during the legislative session. What policies should the state explore to maximize both the economic and workforce impact of land and mineral resources?
Well, for royalty owners, obviously, we feel that the state should adopt policies that ensure the maximum amount of money stays in the pockets of land and royalty owners that's economically viable. But we also want more transparency about payments and things of that nature that, just make it so everybody knows they're getting paid fairly and that there's no shenanigans going on. But as far as economic drivers for the state, when we use the gas in state, it has a multiplier effect. And that is where policy really needs to be focused, I think, at the legislature, if we want to truly benefit from this huge amount of gas under our feet. And that's figuring out ways, industries, businesses that can use the gas in state, so it doesn't have to get shipped out of state, and create added value here. Things like maybe the fertilizer business, trying to find ways to incentivize the fertilizer business to relocate into the Ohio Valley where it once existed, especially if you've been paying attention with the Persian Gulf and the war with Iran. That's created a bottleneck for fertilizer shipments and things of that nature. So there's lots of different ways, whether it's electricity and data centers, but there's also things like fertilizer, plastics industry, chemical industry. We've got the feedstock here. We should be trying to bring some of that here, some of that back, which we used to have, and put people to work and create that value added for the state.
So you're thinking of manufacturing facilities and industrial development right on top of the gas well.
And that helps the royalty owner, because if the gas doesn't have to be transported, you get a better price. Your royalties are based on the volume and the price, so it's a positive cycle for everyone involved.
Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for watching us, and we'll see you next time.